is the new United States Congress. This is how we get down. This is what revolution looks like. This is the new American Revolution. And I do not want to go any further. I have to recognize my sister from New York, Nydia Velasquez, Representative Jan Schakowsky. And we have many more coming to join us. Before I get started, none of the work we do in Washington can happen without collaboration, without coordination, without coalition building. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. It doesn't happen siloed. It doesn't happen alone. So the fact that we are here with the Sunrise Movement is incredible. Now, forgive me, I'm not going to remember every single organization that's here. But I know there are so many, and I'm so thankful and so grateful to work in collaboration with you, not just today, but every day. When you look at American history, revolution only happens when people outside of Congress organize and put pressure on the people in Congress to do the right thing.
Damn right.
And at the center of all of that, throughout American history, from abolition to suffrage to civil rights to LGBTQ to climate, it has always, always, always been young people. And it will continue to be young people because you all have the vision for where our country can, needs to, and must go.
That's right.
And young people represent the sense of urgency that is needed. You know, we all come from working class backgrounds. We're not like our colleagues. Many of them are very rich. They're millionaires. They're wealthy. They have businesses. They've been in power here and other places for a very long time. So they don't have the same sense of urgency. But we all know there are people suffering and dying, preventable disease every day, not just here, but all over the world. And we refuse to accept that because if we're going to brag about our wealth and our might, we have to also make sure our children, most vulnerable people and families are taken care of.
That's right.
And it is such an honor for me as an educator, first as an educator outside of Congress in public schools for 20 years, as a teacher, a high school counselor, and middle school principal, to come to Congress and then be a part of leading this landmark piece of legislation, the Green New Deal for public schools. And again, there's so many people to recognize and to mention, but I want to give a special shout out to Dr. Akira Drake Rodriguez. Where's Akira? Akira, come to the front. Now you see now we all heard, come here, Akira. Now, come up here right now.
That's a legend.
Now, you hear the muted applause, right? The muted applause is always for the people behind the scenes that no one's heard of, that did all of the research, that did so much of the writing and visioning for this bill. Akira is the person, along with her partner, who did that work. So y'all should be yelling way louder for her than even for me. She did that work. She did the work. Now, let me tell you why this bill is transformational. There are many reasons, and other speakers are going to get into it. We have neglected our public schools for decades. Our public schools are falling apart, literally falling apart across the country. Children are going to schools with rodent infestation, mold, mildew, lead in the water, no hot water running in bathrooms, no soap in bathrooms. The school year began this year, and there were stories all across the country, schools without air conditioning, kids sitting in 90-degree classrooms, HVAC systems obsolete, out of date, schools without windows. I know, I have worked in them, without windows, and burning fossil fuels constantly with toxins all throughout the air, where we're asking kids, our most precious and vulnerable resource, to go learn in these spaces. That's what we're asking them to do. So while we are asking them to go to a place to be nurtured and loved and educated, we are also harming and killing them at the same time. So the Green New Deal for public schools is a response to this crisis. And it's a response that was driven by every single one of you. So thank you. Now, as I see my brother Maxwell Frost walk up here, shout out to Maxwell Frost. It's not just about climate. It's about holistic health, well-being, safety, and education. Because as we rebuild our schools, we are going to make sure they are physically safe and secure to stop the most devastating and egregious incidents from happening. We are also going to quadruple Title I funding for our public schools, which will allow us to meet the needs of the most vulnerable children in our country. We have woefully underfunded Title I schools for decades, and it's time to address that issue.
That's right.
And when we fully fund, as we fund these schools more equitably, we're able to hire more teachers, so it responds to the teacher shortage. Teachers will be paid a prevailing wage, which should be happening all over the country. And we could give our kids the curriculum that they deserve, rooted in STEM and science and climate, so they could come out as climate activists when they graduate from the 12th grade. We are investing in IDEA, serving our children with special needs. We have neglected them for far too long. If you are a parent of a child with special needs, or if you are a person with special needs, as many of us are, remember I said the word us, you need additional supports. And the federal government has never met its obligation in funding IDEA to support our kids with special needs. This bill ensures the federal government meets its obligation. In addition to that, yes, clap for that. In addition to that, this is about workforce development as we transition from where we are to solar, wind, heat pumps, geothermal, clean hydrogen. We need workers to do that work. So this is about union-paid jobs, union jobs earning a prevailing wage to transition our schools. It's also about jobs for more teachers and more counselors, because guess what? We are suffering through a mental health crisis with our kids, as identified by the Surgeon General a couple of years ago. This bill is a leader and in response to that. And finally, we are investing in schools and communities that have been redlined. These are the communities where you are more likely to die of asthma than anywhere else in the country. Communities like where Nydia represents and where I represent in the Bronx. That has been unacceptable. And so when we look at areas of our society, and I'll close with this, whether it's the mental health crisis with our kids, guns being the #1 killer of children in our country, mass incarceration, environmental injustice, wealth inequality, climate justice, all of this aligns to what happens in education. All of it. Education undergirds all of it. And so when we ensure the wealthy pay their fair share, when we ensure corporations pay their fair share, as we allow the IRS to go after tax cheats, and as we reinvest from a military-industrial complex that spends over $1 trillion a year, almost $1 trillion a year, into our education, it's easy to find the money to pay for this. That's right. So when they ask how we pay for it, we got the money. Our budget is a reflection of our values. And our values, for several decades, have been rooted in mass incarceration, gun violence, imperialism, and self-destruction. It is time for a new American revolution where our values are rooted in our children, in education, and in love for humanity. Love for humanity. So, thank you all so much for being here. Senator Markey, thank you so much for your leadership. So last term, we didn't have a Senate companion. We didn't have a Senate partner. This term, Senator Markey stepped up and said, I want to be the Senate leader of your bill. So thank you, Senator Markey. Really appreciate you, brother. Absolutely.
All right,
and let's change the world.
Let us change the world. So let us hear it for Reverend Bowman. Reverend Bowman, you are preaching the truth. You are preaching not just to the choir, but you are preaching to our country. And you are telling us what we need to hear. And as you were saying, it is the young people who are leading us. It is the Sunrise Movement who are leading us. The Sunrise Movement made it very clear 5 years ago that we needed a Green New Deal. And we didn't need a Green New Deal just for energy and climate, but we needed a Green New Deal for everything. We needed to make sure that we lived in a more just, more fair, more equitable society. And when Fox News and the Republicans laugh at the Green New Deal, they say that's socialism for wind and solar and all-electric vehicles. What the Sunrise Movement says is, well, why are you giving 100 years of tax breaks for the oil and gas and coal industry? The Sunrise Movement says, give us some of that socialism for wind and solar and all-electric vehicles, for plug-in hybrids, for battery storage technologies. Give us some of that money for public schools across our country. Let's make sure that, yeah, young people are only 20% of our population, but young people are 100% of our future. Let's invest in young people. Let's make sure that we give them, Reverend Bowman, the resources which they need to complete this transformation. Nydia Lasquez, Jan Schakowsky, Maxwell Frost, all of the activists who are here today, you know, we know that you are showing up in force today in order to force that building, the Capitol building, to respond to your generation. That is why you are here. And William Butler Yeats, the great Irish poet, he once said, education is not the filling of a pail, but it is the lighting of a fire. And that's what we see behind you today. You're lighting the fire for an entire generation. And you're demanding that this building, that this Congress responds to what is needed to invest in every American. And one thing that we know, it's that this next generation is going to be disproportionately black and brown and immigrant. And we have to educate them at the highest possible level. And we have to put them into schools that do not have asbestos, that do not have lead, that do not have mold, that do not have diseases which are already in their communities, because we know that those communities of color already suffer from the highest levels of asthma in our country. We have to ensure that the teachers are there and that they're well paid, that the buildings are safe, that the young people have the teachers who are there, who can provide them with the education they need in order to maximize their God-given abilities. That's what Reverend Bowman's Green New Deal for education is all about. And that's why I'm proud, along with Bernie Sanders, to be the House and Senate sponsors of this great bill, to make sure that we raise the profile of this bill to where it has to be. We know that climate events are only increasing. The fires are worse, the floods are worse, the storms are worse, the danger is greater. And we all know that the Sunrise Movement is saying quite clearly that the next 10 years are the most important 10 years in the history of the world. If we don't get this right, if we don't put the preventative measures in place, then we are going to see catastrophic consequences that will be disproportionately borne by the younger generation in our society. They will inherit all of the problems that have been bequeathed to them by preceding generations who did not deal with this issue. So you are standing up, you are speaking up, you are rising up to demand the change which we need. Because you know that in order to fight for our future, we have to fight for a Green New Deal, for schools, for education, for everything in our society. This is something that when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and I introduced the Green New Deal, was all part of the Green New Deal, which is why Jamal is such a great leader. Because that is what drives Fox News crazy. It is a fairer distribution of God's gifts on this planet. It isn't just up in the upper 1 percentile where the 3 most wealthy billionaires actually control more wealth than the bottom 50% of our population combined. That has to end. We just can't be the rich get richer and everyone else pays taxes and suffers from the consequences of that draining of revenues. So the cornerstone of this revolution is the Green New Deal for public schools. And it is my honor, along with Jamal Bowman, that every public school, every Bureau of Indian Education school building in our country gets the resources which they need, and that they're led by union teachers, union workers who will be there. And what they'll be able to do is to take out the mold, cut greenhouse gas emissions, and lower school energy bills. So our schools are going to be renovated. We're going to make sure they get the resources which they need. We're going to quadruple the funding, which is what this bill does. It quadruples the funding for low-income schools in our country. It just says we're going to invest. My father was a milkman. He drove a truck. I'm a United States Senator. There was an investment that generation made in young people. The question is this generation wise enough to make the same kind of investment? And young people are demanding that this generation, that this Congress ensure that for black and brown and indigenous, disabled, working class communities, that they get what they need, that they're not ignored any longer. So this is going to require community input, prioritize the districts that are left behind, and make sure that everyone gets what they need. And we're going to do it together, and we're going to do it led by the young people in our country. Thank you all so much, Sunrise Movement. Thank you, young people everywhere. Let me turn it over to let me turn it back over to you, Jamal.
Okay. Come on, Jan. Come on, Jan. Yes. It is my honor now to introduce Representative Jan Schakowsky.
You know, I am a badass organizer. That's what I am. And have been for most of my life. And I am so proud to be here today with my colleagues. You know, Ed Markey was the original sponsor of the Green New Deal. Yes. You know, and people said, oh, no, we can't do it. You know what? When I look around, I know that you can do it, that we can do it. You know, there was a time when I would see young people and I would say, what do you want to do or be when you grow up? I never, ever say that anymore, because the future is yours right now. This is your time. This is your moment. And so I am just here to say, keep up the fight. The Green New Deal for public schools, I began my career as a public school teacher in the city of Chicago, and I have seen schools where the water is not fit to drink, or as Jamal said, sometimes the water doesn't even work. We know that there is lead, not just in the pipes, but sometimes in the paint in the schools. I mean, it should never be dangerous in the public schools. And that's why what you are doing is so incredibly important. So I just want you to keep it up and know that so many of us who have been around for a long time, some of us who are newer to the Congress of the United States, are with you all the way. Let's get it done. And let me end this with this. When we fight, we win. 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 Let's do it.
Thank you so much, Dan. It's now my honor to bring up Representative Nydia Velasquez.
Thank you so much. I'm Congresswoman Nydia Velasquez. I represent New York City, the first Puerto Rican woman ever elected to Congress. And 31 years ago, let me say this, as a Puerto Rican woman who grew up in Puerto Rico, I met climate change long time ago. Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Dominicans, they have been at the center of climate change. They have been the victims of climate change. And 6 years ago, Hurricane Maria devastated Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico, part of the United States. Former President Donald Trump abandoned his responsibility toward the people of Puerto Rico. So I am here to say to you, thank you. Thank you for bringing us to this moment. Change will not happen unless you demand it. And that is exactly what you have been doing. The fact that we passed the Inflation Reduction Act was because of you, because of your engagement, your commitment, your compassion, and your humanity. You're not fighting only for yourself, you're fighting for the entire world. Yeah. And this is important to all. You see, this legislation today should have been part of the Inflation Reduction Act, as well as public housing. Right. The public housing in this country is in a state of crisis. That should be part of the Inflation Reduction Act, and it didn't happen. But you are here to say that is the right thing to do. So I am here also to share with you that thanks to Markey and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez that gave us and put us in a path to pass the Inflation Reduction Act, that I was the first chair of a full committee to become a co-sponsor of the Green New Deal, the first chair. And we are the wealthiest, most powerful country in the world. And yes, we have an imbalance when it comes for paying taxes and contributing to the resources that we need in order to address the many challenges that we are facing, particularly the existential threat that is climate change. It will happen because of you. Thank you so much for being here. We will be here with you. We will fight, and we will continue to demand fairness when it comes to climate change, because those that have been vulnerable and the victims of climate change should be front and center of our response to climate change. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you, Representative Velasquez. It is now my honor to bring up Representative Maxwell Frost from Florida to deliver some remarks.
All right, I got to chant, hey, Kevin McCarthy!
Hey, Kevin McCarthy!
Don't shut us down!
Don't shut us down!
Hey, Kevin McCarthy!
Hey, Kevin McCarthy!
Green New Deal now!
Green New Deal now!
Woo! I made that on the walk over here, just saying. Good afternoon, I'm Congressman Maxwell Alejandro Frost, proudly representing Central Florida in the United States Congress. Also, proud son of a public school educator who just retired after 37 years. And I want to thank Congressman Bowman and Senator Markey for their leadership on giving the Green New Deal for public schools and for never giving up in the fight for the kind of climate solutions that we need. I also want to thank the Sunrise Movement and all the other organizations, organizers, and advocates here today. I'm proud to be a champion and co-sponsor of the Green New Deal for public health as well, because it's no secret that the same right-wing extremists who are shutting down our government this week are directly responsible for some of the worst climate policies and continuous attacks on our communities. And I'll tell you, this is very personal for me. I come from the state of Florida, which is a frontline state in this battle. Just last year, Hurricane Ian, a hurricane that was one of the most devastating hurricanes we've seen in a while, because our ocean is at the temperature of a hot tub. The temperature of a hot tub. The hurricanes are lasting longer and they're worse. And that hurricane literally decimated cities in my state. But we have a governor that wants to reject any kind of federal help or any kind of policies to ensure that our people are safe. Boom! Not just that, but these programs are being cut left and right. And to make matters worse, our schools are crumbling. Our public schools are crumbling, with more than half of all public schools needing at least one major facility repair, including school infrastructure, lighting, ventilation, AC, heating, accessibility, and storm management. These problems disproportionately impact Black, brown, indigenous, and poor communities. And I love the Green New Deal for public schools for many different reasons, but the top one is that it views these issues holistically. Because when the oppression is connected, the organizing and solutions must also be connected. And I'll tell you, earlier this month, schools in the Midwest and the Northeast had to close because of extreme heat. In Florida, climate change has been directly responsible for some of the worst hurricane seasons on record. That means that kids are out of school every time a strong storm emerges, but even worse, those kids are at risk of losing their houses, losing their loved ones, and losing their lives. How do we expect students to learn? How do we expect students to feel good about being in school under these conditions? We deserve safe schools. Right. We deserve clean and safe communities. We deserve a climate solution and not a climate crisis. And let's be clear, because forever in the movement, it's coming. It's here. The climate crisis is here. People are dying now. This problem is happening now. But the good news is that we can still do something to stop the worst impacts of this. And shame on us if we don't. The Green New Deal for public schools is about the present and the future of our country, not just our country, but about humanity. That's right. This should not be a partisan issue. This should be clear. The climate crisis isn't coming, it's here. And while many in the halls of Congress want to talk about it costs too much, let's be clear. The cost of not doing anything is far greater than the cost of taking bold action now. And in these halls, the definition of cost is different for the people in these halls than the rest of our country. Because for them, cost is just dollar and cents. But for us, cost is human lives. So together we'll use every tool at our disposal. Protest, voting, mutual aid, direct action, running for office, bridging the gap between cooling consciousness and creating art to build the better world that we deserve. I believe in a Green New Deal for public schools because I believe in humanity. Right. So, thank y'all so much. And again, hey, Kevin McCarthy!
Hey, Kevin McCarthy!
Don't shut us down!
Don't shut us down!
Hey, Kevin McCarthy!
Hey, Kevin McCarthy!
And I said Green New Deal now! Woo!
Green New Deal now!
Woo!
So, as you can see, this is a movement. This is a national movement. And I want to remind everyone of something you already know, but I want to say it for the cameras, and this needs to be shared far and wide. 2024 is the most important election in our lives. We're not just talking about the presidency, which, yes, we have to win, but every House seat is up for grabs, and 22 Senate races are up for grabs. And there are many that are essential. Florida is one, Tennessee, Texas, Arizona, and many others. And if we can get a few more Senate seats, we can pass everything that was left out of Build Back Better, which includes a Green New Deal for public schools. Let's get it done. Now, it is now my honor to bring up, hold on, Miss Lakeisha Woods, y'all. Give her a round of applause. Thank you, Miss Woods.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I don't have a pithy song, so I feel like I'm left behind. I'm the CEO. My name is Lakeisha Woods. I'm the CEO for the American Institute of Architects. I'm also a proud wife of a middle school teacher and a mother of a 5-year-old. So this is a very important topic to me personally. As I stand here today, I was thinking back to when I grew up in school, and I was raised in amazing public schools. I was lucky enough to go to schools that provided me opportunity, education, access, and those lessons took me to where I am today. But as a student, I never had to face what happened just 3 weeks ago that we've been talking about in parts of Michigan, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Ohio, Wisconsin, Iowa, New Jersey, and more states where K-12 classes were disrupted due to heat. Hundreds of schools closed, tens of thousands of students impacted. For many of them, it was supposed to be the first day of school. According to a 2020 report from the Government Accountability Office, 41% of U.S. schools do not have proper heating, ventilation, and cooling. Our children deserve healthy and accessible learning environments where they can thrive. The American Institute, yes, thank you. The American Institute of Architects applauds the reintroduction of the Green New Deal for Public Schools Act and investment in public school infrastructure. This bill addresses both of our strategic priorities by focusing on sustainability and resilience and its intersection with equity, inclusion, and justice. In fact, I'm pleased that our members who have deep experience in education design were able to provide edits that are reflective in the bill's language. We urge the House members to join Representative Bowman and Senator Markey and the original co-sponsors in ensuring the passage of this critical legislation. Please note that architects are your partners for progress. We are here to see climate action move in a positive direction. Thank you.
So, as we have mentioned, this movement has been driven by young people. Young people have been the engine of this movement. But this is about anyone in our country who cares about our children, who cares about our schools, and who cares about our collective humanity. So we need to use this bill to organize, organize, organize in every corner of this country. Every district, every community, every neighborhood. We need to knock on doors. We need to be at supermarkets, train stations, ride on horses, whatever we need to do to get it done. Because it can't just be young people. So I'm calling on every teacher in America, every single educator to lean into supporting the Green New Deal for public schools and lean into making sure we vote the right people into office next year and the wrong people out of office. We need every single teacher in America to lean in and be on board. So imagine this. We have every student in America. We have every teacher in America. Now we need every single parent in our country to lean into supporting the Green New Deal for public schools. And anyone else who cares about our children and our humanity. That is the revolution we need. That is the coalition we need, and that is the coalition that's going to get this done. Yeah! It is now my honor to bring up a champion for the Green New Deal for public schools, the Green New Deal, a visionary leader in the State House in Pennsylvania. My brother, we connected when I think we were both candidates at the time. Or maybe I just won, I don't know what happened. But we connected way back when, and now he is here supporting this movement. PA State Senator Nikhil Saval. Bring him up, y'all. Come on up.
Thank you. When I say Green New, you say deal. Green New, deal. Green New. Deal. When I say Green New, you say deal. Green New, deal. Green New. Deal. Thank you. Whew, what an honor. So thank you so much. Again, Nikhil Saval, it's my privilege to represent the people, communities, and lands of Pennsylvania's 1st Senatorial District, which is in the heart of Philadelphia. Let's hear it for Philadelphia. We know some people here. It is such an honor to be here. It's so great to be here with the elected officials, the movement organizations, the public education advocates. Thank you to the OG Green New Deal maker, Senator Ed Markey. Yeah. And thank you to Congressman Jamal Bowman for your leadership and for your vision with this bill. I want to thank someone that the Congressman has already thanked, because without whom I would not be here. The brilliant Akira Drake Rodriguez, who conceived, just amazing person, an amazing mind, who conceived of the Green New Deals for schools just as a seed, as a campaign platform that I ran on for state senate. And that became a seed for a policy platform and finally a bill. So it's amazing, and she's just an incredible leader. Akira, like me, is from Philadelphia, and we have, unfortunately, a lot of sobering statistics in Philadelphia, and we need the Green New Deal for schools very badly. Well, Pennsylvania itself has one of the most unequal school funding systems in the country, so much so that one of our appeals courts, which is actually ruled by Republicans, recently declared the funding system unconstitutional. Philadelphia's old school buildings, decades old, have an estimated $10 billion in deferred maintenance projects. The decades of neglect have resulted in deep human cost. A lot of us in Philadelphia know these names. Teacher Leah DeRusso, who was diagnosed with mesothelioma after teaching for years in schools known to have asbestos. First grader Dean Pagan, who suffered lead poisoning after eating lead paint chips that crumbled from the ceiling onto his desk. Facilities mechanic Chris Trakamus, who died when a boiler exploded at the school he worked at. They're among the thousands who have suffered day in and day out because of the lack of government investment. Philadelphia is an overwhelmingly black and brown working class city. We recognize this for what it is, neglect that is intentional and by design. But we have not been silent about it. Advocates have packed school board meetings, elected teachers and parent advocates to city and state offices, and filled the air with chants in our state capitol. Community members have built air purifiers for schools across the city. My colleague in the state Senate, Senator Vincent Hughes, has campaigned against toxic schools throughout our state. And my colleague in the state house, Representative Elizabeth Fiedler, passed a Solar for Schools bill with huge enthusiasm from the Pennsylvania building trades and with overwhelming bipartisan support. Yeah. The good people. Supporters of the Green New Deal for schools have seen the future of public education, and they know that it is bright. They know our children, teachers, parents, paraprofessionals, climate staff, cafeteria workers deserve not just adequate schools, they deserve luxurious schools. They know that schools are anchors for their neighborhood, centers of resilience, palaces of learning and community of exchange. The Green New Deal for public schools is a collective project, a vision that leaves no one behind and delivers the education system we all deserve. Above all, Congressman Bowman, Dr. Bowman, Principal Bowman, it is an educational project. I imagine a Philadelphia where children, including my own young children, participate in this project, watching as union electricians lay out solar panels on the repaired roof of their school, understanding the history of green technology and organized labor, and learning the science of engineering that transforms their school into a cooling center in the midst of increasingly hot summers. A Green New Deal for public schools, in other words, brings public schools into the Green New Deal. It is not only an intervention in a crisis, but the first necessary step in delivering to our students the opportunity to build a future for themselves right where they learn. Thank you so much. Thank you for your leadership. It's great to be here. Thank you.
When I say Green New, you say deal. Green New. Deal. Green New. Deal. When I say Green New, you say deal. Green New. Deal. Green New. Deal. Green New. Deal. Green New. Deal. Let's go. Hold on. It is now my honor to bring up the president, the union president of the D.C. Teachers Union, President Poe Lyons.
Thank you so much. I first want to say it is an honor to be here today with all this budget stuff and all the things that are going on right here. It is hard to, sometimes we don't remember that people actually live in Washington, D.C. And I want to remind you that I represent over 5,700 public school teachers right here in the district. And, yes. And I also want to remind you that every day we teach over 49,000 public school children who live right here in the District of Columbia, many of whom are brown and black, and many of whom live in underserved communities. And so I am proud that Congressman Bowman invited us here. Not only does he serve his district well, he doesn't forget that while he is a guest here in Washington, D.C., whenever we invite him to any of our events to speak loudly for public school education in Washington, D.C., he is right here. So I'm happy and proud that you invited the Washington Teachers Union to be here today and speak on behalf of public school education. Want to remind you all also that the average teacher in the District of Columbia is 31 years old, which is totally different than the school system that I entered 30 years ago. The average teacher was around in her 40s and 50s, almost finishing up with her kids, if she had any or he had any, in high school and college. We have 31-year-olds, and we're not keeping them. We get the best and the brightest in the district because we're right here in the Capitol, but we're not keeping them. And one of the ways that we know we're going to keep young people in the district who are bright and can do almost anything is we have to address the inequities that exist in this country. We have to understand that our young people are invested in the Green New Deal Act. It is an act whose time has come. It should have been done over 30 years ago, and it needs to be done now. Our young people know that great learning conditions and great working conditions go hand in hand, and we're not going to get and keep these wonderful teachers if we don't address the climate issues. Sometimes I get in my car in the morning, I have on boots and a coat, and by the end of the day I'm walking around in shorts because the school year is longer, and the conditions have changed since when I first started teaching, where we have warmer and hotter days and colder winters. And so we have to address that in the classroom too if we expect children to be able to learn and be productive. I'm happy to say that the District of Columbia is aware of this, and the Washington Teachers Union is now working on a contract that wants to put together a joint climate curriculum task force that addresses the sustainability, equity, and racial justice as far as the environment is concerned. Because we know that the effects of the climate hurt our underserved communities more and our brown and black communities. We also want to have outdoor safe education spaces, free of violence, free of fear. We also want to have instructional partnerships that work with our partners to get health and nutrition in our schools, to fight the food deserts that we have in many of the areas of this city as well as around the country. So I want to address our young people to say, we wouldn't have the civil rights that we have now if it wasn't for you 60 years ago. Please don't let anyone say that what you're doing is not worth it. Just like 60 years ago, we have the freedoms that we have now. We will get the civil rights as far as the environment is concerned if you keep at it, especially as we go into 2024 and the election. So again, I'm honored. I'm happy that you all asked me to be here to speak on behalf of the children of the District of Columbia and the teachers who serve them every day. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Let me hear you say the time is now. The time is now. The time is now. The time is now. For a Green New Deal. 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 The time is now. The time is now. The time is now. The time is now. For a Green New Deal. 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 Let's go. Let's go. So I'm going to close with this, and then I'm going to pass it back to my brother Shiva, you got it. Shiva. That's a dope name either way. Pass it to my brother to continue the pep rally. But here's what I want to say. If we are not taking care of our children, we do not have a democracy. If we are not taking care of our teachers, we do not have a democracy. If we are not investing in public education and public schools, we do not have a democracy. If we are not supporting our families, we do not have a democracy. If we are not responding to the climate catastrophe that we are living in, not only are we not going to have a democracy, we will not have a planet and we will not have a humanity to speak of. So that is why we are all here. And Shiva, before I give it back to you, what's up, brother? What's going on, man? We got the whole crew here. I need to pass it to my sister, founding member of the squad, from the great state of Minnesota, Representative Ilhan Omar. Shiva, you're next.
Well, thank you, Representative Bowman and Senator Markey, for being here. I am thrilled to join you all today in support of this bill championed by my esteemed colleague, Representative Jamal Bowman. As a former educator, Representative Bowman intimately understands the challenges facing our public schools and the boundless potential of our students. That unique perspective makes him the perfect leader for this legislation. For too long, we have failed to fully invest in our schools, students, and teachers. The result is an education system that is under-resourced, inadequate, and fails to help each student reach their full potential. The Green New Deal for public schools is a sweeping investment of $1.6 billion over 10 years that will radically trillion, that 1.6 trillion that will radically transform our education system. The Department of Education and the Department of Energy would work hand in hand to provide unprecedented investment to uplift our nation's public and Bureau of Indian Education schools. Schools could finally convert to zero carbon, highly energy efficient buildings with on-site renewables. Every student and teacher have experienced some type of extreme weather and know that facilities need to be resilient against climate disaster. In my district, North Park School for Innovation has implemented state-of-the-art techniques of turning trash and recycling into valuable resources. Schools across the country must make environmental sustainability as an essential part of their infrastructure. We will upgrade school buildings to be safe and carbon neutral, creating good jobs in the process. We will hire more educators, counselors, and support staff to reduce student to staff ratios. There you go. We will quadruple funding for high poverty schools and increase support for students with disabilities. Reimagining public schools requires rethinking our social and economic priorities. Right. We have accepted systems that reward wealth over work, feed endless wars, and allow systematic injustices to fester. Instead, let's demand a system that cares for people over profits. When we honor humanity in each student, we build a more just society. When we invest in public education, we invest in the future of our country. When we prioritize the health and well-being of our children, we uplift our communities. The Green New Deal for public schools is a bold solution. We need to write a new social contract, one that respects the brilliance in every child. Will we accept the status quo of neglect and inequality in education? No! Will we usher in a new era of inclusive schools? Yeah! I invite you all to rethink what is possible when we invest deeply in our shared values. It is time to work in building the school systems our children deserve. As a mother of 4 and as a product of public schools, I am very excited about this legislation. And again, I thank our champion, Jamal Bowman, for introducing this legislation. I am now proud to introduce DC's Teachers Union President. Okay, all right.
We took care of that.
Following the script, I give you back Bowman.
Say, we are the revolution. We are the revolution. We are the revolution. We are the revolution. We will win. 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 We will. Yeah! I'm going to pass it to my boy Shiva to lead the pep rally. We have to go vote. Senator Markey, let's take a couple pictures and then we're out of here. Thank you all so much. Stay for the rally. It's going to be fun.
Shiva, you're in here, Shiva.
Shiva, come on.
Get a selfie or?
Yeah,
however you want to do it. We got a bunch of people.
I know you want to do it.
Okay, good.